Blog Talk Radio.
What a difference a few days make. A week ago, as we sat here on CaneSport Live, looking forward to the start of a new season, the Miami Hurricanes were totally off the radar in college football. They were unranked in the Associated Press poll, and they were way down, like in about the 40th spot in the coaches poll. Well, flash forward past the 38-3 victory over Miami of Ohio last Friday night, and suddenly the Hurricanes are getting some respect, heading into a home showdown with the number 23 Texas A&M Aggies on Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium. The Canes are now tied with Auburn under others receiving votes at number 32 in the coaches poll, and they made an appearance in the AP poll this week at number 33. After, like I said, being nowhere to be found. A win this weekend would undoubtedly launch UM right into the top 25 rankings in both polls. Yes, things can change that quickly. So tonight we are going to discuss the Miami of Ohio game. What did you guys think of the Canes' performance? And we'll also look ahead to Texas A&M, a very important game for Miami in terms of the continued mission of reestablishing relevance and respect to the program. Hello again, everybody. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, and we welcome you once again to CaneSport Live. As always, this is your show, and it's driven by your participation. The call-in number is 563-999-3550. That's 563-999-3550. We have more than 100 open phone lines, plenty of room for everybody to call in, listen, whatever you prefer. If you do call in and you want to come on the show, you dial that 563-999-3550 number, and you hit the number 1 on your keypad. That puts you in the queue. Once you land in the queue, we bring you on the show in the order that you called in. Tonight and throughout the season, I'll once again be joined by our Izubee Charles as we take your calls and discuss the various issues surrounding this Hurricane team. So I thought the Saturday's game was a very professional-looking outing for the Hurricanes. Guys on both sides of the ball clearly knew their assignments. They did a nice job executing them. I thought the coaches were really on point, successfully rotating about 60 guys in and out of the game. I really didn't see any negatives out there other than maybe Leonard Taylor, who only played 15 reps and was yanked from the game after drawing a dumb personal foul penalty. Leonard Taylor is clearly a project for this coaching staff this year. For Miami to have any success this season, they must get the best and the most out of Leonard Taylor, and I think we saw some of that coaching taking place already on Friday night. So let's bring in Izubee Charles. Izubee, welcome back to CaneSport Live. Why don't you start out by giving us your thoughts on what you saw on Friday night?
Yeah, I thought Friday's game was, as good as it gets for an opener where you're not trying to show too much or you're not trying to, do too much. I feel like the Hurricanes did exactly what they needed to do. Came out and dominated on both sides of the ball without showing too much for the bigger game that is Texas A&M. I know Coach Dawson was asked during the Monday press conference, so what about that offense? Was there, are there more tricks in the bag? He said, for sure, we kind of ran that vanilla offense where we kept it simple and we didn't have to do too much. So I feel like that was great to hear that from the man himself that, Miami did keep that offense simple and they have a lot of more tricks left in the bag for A&M and teams moving forward. And on the defense side of the ball, there's not much else to say. They held, Miami was held to 3 points. There wasn't any glaring issues on the defense, no big plays, no bust, no anything like that, just sound tackling, noses flying to the ball and, finishing tackles, which you love to see, which wins games. So I feel like on both sides of the ball, that was as clean as you can get for, a healthy season opener to build momentum heading into Texas A&M. No injuries, no anything like that. So, I feel like Miami came out the bigger winner. Obviously, they won the game, but they came out the bigger winner, after that Week 1 matchup against Miami of Ohio.
All right, let's have some real talk here for a minute. You're a young guy, a couple years older than Leonard Taylor, but a young guy nonetheless. And you played football, so you can relate on both fronts. And here they have this guy who Mel Kiper is projecting to be the number 13 pick in the NFL draft next April. Okay, if you talk to any NFL scout, and I talked to several of them during the offseason, and you say, who is the best player on this Miami football team, they're all going to tell you Leonard Taylor, okay? So what I really struggle with, and I've gotten to know Leonard a little bit, and I mean, he's a teddy bear. He's such a nice kid. But how does a young guy with this type of talent that clearly is recognized by the greatest talent scouts in the football business, here he is in year 3, and we're still talking about trying to get the best out of Leonard Taylor. I can't quite understand that on either the football level, Izubee, or the personal level. Maybe you can try to put that in perspective for us. Just take us in the mind of a young adult like yourself and like Leonard, and why it might be such a challenge to reach him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, being similar ages, obviously different situations for myself and Leonard Taylor. But I would probably say, like you mentioned, a lot of people are expecting a lot from him. Guys are putting him in, positions where they say, hey, you're the best guy on the team. We need you to perform. We need you to lead. And, sometimes that pressure might, get to people. I'm not saying that's exactly the case for Leonard, but being so young and having so many eyes on you and things like that can, lead to frustrations on the field when you're not playing up to your capability, you're not playing up to the levels you can play at. So I feel like that, and, obviously we don't know what's going on behind the scenes with Leonard Taylor, so we can't, completely judge the story or completely, put our fingers on things. But I feel like a combination of a lot of pressure and other different things might be factoring into that. But at the end of the day, that's where I feel like great coaching comes into the picture and kind of helps that player and kind of molds that player. And that's where you have a guy like Jason Taylor on staff that's been to the highest levels, that's dealt with, tons of immense pressure coming from outside, coming from inside to perform. And I feel like at this point, like you said, the coaching, I feel like the coach is kind of, hey, you're our guy. You're a highly touted guy. A lot of people know you can do it. We know you can do it. I feel like that's when a coach comes in and, kind of takes that role, help molding, him from a young man to a man. And you hear during the recruiting process, a lot of kids always say, hey, I want to go to a school where they can develop me on the field and off the field. We've seen the flashes from him on the field, and obviously we don't know what's going off the field, but I feel like this is when, coaches, Coach Cristobal, Coach Taylor come in and kind of help mold this young man into, what his full potential could be. And I feel like, like I mentioned, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but, coming from someone that was just recently in college, who's kind of younger, I feel like the pressure may be kind of getting to him, but like I said, you never know what's actually going on behind the scenes.
I mean, do guy, and maybe this is an individual thing, but do young guys like yourselves, and I'll put you and Leonard in a similar thing, because I'm hoping you can describe this a little bit for us. Do they rebel against pressure?
I mean, it just is however you want to take it. Obviously, like I said, I'm not, playing Division High 1 football, but when, being around kids my age, I feel like some guys take it a certain way and some guys take it another way. Some guys see the pressure and say, hey, pressure makes diamonds. This is my time to shine. And some guys, crumble under the pressure, which is too much. So it really just depends on your mindset and, what type of person you are individually. I feel like that's kind of a harder thing to put on one guy or kind of pinpoint coming from someone that's not in that similar situation. But, some guys take that pressure as, hey, it's my time to, make or break, and some guys just break and, eventually fizzle out. But hopefully that's not the case with Leonard Taylor moving on forward. I really do think he'll be able to put it together, throughout the season to kind of really be that guy that Miami knows he can be in the middle and be a force for the Hurricanes.
Now, coming into college, he made it very clear, I want to go make something of myself to help my mom. I mean, he and his mom have an amazing relationship. It's a relatively typical son-mom relationship, quite honestly. And he wants to make it big in football to take care of his mom. Is that pressure?
Oh, 100%. Having, people back home, knowing that you have to, perform to help them. And I feel like that's another thing. Like I said, you never know what's going on behind the scenes with some of the other guys. And that's just another thing in the back of your mind, Just like, hey, if I don't do this, the people that I care about the most are counting on me, Maybe something won't be happening then for them. But, yeah, I feel like that's just another added thing that, always have to factor in when thinking of guys' situations and, things of that nature.
Well, they gave him 15 reps against Miami of Ohio. And we could look at that and say, they're saving him. They want to make sure he doesn't get hurt. They need Leonard Taylor to step up big against Texas A&M and the other major opponents this season. I mean, there's no question about that. But I'm not sure, we didn't see him after he drew that personal foul penalty in the second half. And, I think that this was a message. And I think that the coaches went into this season knowing Leonard Taylor needs to be coached. It is time, and we need to do whatever we need to do to try to reach this young man, because we can't be a great football team this year. We can't even be a really good football team this year if we don't have his force in the middle of the defense. And I hope we start seeing that from Leonard Taylor this Saturday, beginning with this Texas A&M game. I bring that up, guys, because that's really the greatest issue that I know I saw in the game, in what was relatively a near perfect performance. I mean, went according to script. Miami looked good on offense. They looked good on defense. Like I said, the coaches were rotating about 60 guys through there. I didn't see mental busts like we saw a year ago. Guys were lining up properly. They were executing their assignments. It was a very clean ball game for Miami, exactly what Mario Cristobal would have ordered up for opening night. So now it's time to hear what you guys thought about it. So we're going to go to your calls. The number is 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the number 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. And, make sure you hit that 1, because that'll put you in the queue in the order that you land on the queue. I would love to hear from some first-time callers tonight. Let's hear your voices. Let's get you involved in the show. But first, we're going to start out in the 845, where I know we're going to hear a familiar voice because I recognize the number, and that's our man Greg calling in from, I believe, Pennsylvania. Greg, welcome back to CaneSport Live.
No, North Carolina.
Oh, you're in North Carolina. You used to be in Pennsylvania, right?
It's a New York number, but I live in North Carolina. Anyway, you're right. The performance was excellent. Except, could somebody tell Restrepo not to make a fair catch on the 4-yard line? what the hell is he thinking about?
Yeah, I guess I could have brought that up. I forgot about that, Greg. I tried to forget about it.
I mean, come on. I heard he's a very smart kid. That's terrible play. Anyway, all right, I got a question for you. This guy Elko from Duke, what kind of roster did he inherit when he took over the team? You think it was a little worse than what Mario inherited?
It might have been comparable, and I get where you're going with this, Greg. Let me tell you something. What that guy is doing at Duke, and like what he did last year and now is continuing it this year, is one of the most unbelievable things you'll ever see. I mean, this guy's a first-time head coach. I mean, he's learning on the fly. We've talked about first-time head coaches for years at CaneSport. When Manny Diaz got the job at Miami, wasn't clearly ready for it. This guy, Elko, I mean, he's showing he's ready for it, and he's going to get a bigger job here very, very soon if he keeps this up, because Duke is playing a really high-quality brand of football. They came down, they blew Miami out last year at Hard Rock Stadium, and like I said, they've just continued it here this year. And I get where you're going with this, and you're going to want to pin the same type of expectation on Mario. And I'm telling you, based on what we saw from Miami on Friday night, I think Mario's headed in the right direction also.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And the same thing with Norvell. Look what he's done. We swamped him 52-10 a few years ago. Then he struggled the year after, won 10 games last year. Now he's in the national title hunt.
Yeah, that Florida State's doing it a little differently. Florida State. No, I was just going to say, Greg, Florida State's doing it with the transfer portal, which is showing that you could do it in different ways. Miami's kind of doing it with a mix of both, and we'll see what happens as the season goes forward. But yes, Mike Norvell, Florida State, you got to applaud them as well. They're doing a great job.
All right, so what's the lineup for these recruits this weekend? Are there going to be a ton of them there?
Oh my God, yeah, a ton is an understatement. Izubee, you dove hard into that recruit list for this weekend. It's starting to remind me of the barbecue that they had before the season. It's a pretty impressive looking list of recruits that'll be coming to Hard Rock on Saturday.
Yeah, you've got a ton of, I believe there's 3 or 4 5-star prospects from the 2025 class on hand. There's a lot of 2025 guys that Miami are bringing to the game on Saturday. We got the number 1 overall prospect in the country, Naeem Oford out of Alabama. We've got Armando Blunt, who's a local Miami Central guy, another 5-star defensive line, I believe, number 4 player in the country. We got another 5-star, DJ Pickett, coming from the Zephyr Hills area. And then obviously we have the 2024 guys and Josiah Trader and, most of the Miami's 24 class. But this game is kind of reminding me of the Florida State game they had last year when they kind of, brought out all the big guys. Mark Fletcher was in attendance for that game. Brandon Ennis was in attendance for that game. And kind of this is why I said during the summer and early during the season, I said this is going to be Miami's biggest game for many reasons, not just, implications on the field, but off the field. If Miami comes out and has a great performance in front of all these recruits and all these 5-stars and all these 4-stars, that'll be huge for them on the recruiting trails to continue to build off momentum last year. And this is the game to do it. Second game of the year, you got the kind of fans behind you now. It's going to be a packed house coming off that big win. So I feel like it's a who's who on this list of recruits coming in, and I can guarantee you there are going to be more guys that show up Saturday that we're going to be like, wow, we didn't know Miami, had this guy on the list, or he was going to show up. So a lot of big names to watch out Saturday, and we'll have, everyone covered with stories and analysis after, what the recruits are saying following the game too.
Well, this is a big game. It's about time we beat somebody good. It's been 6 years since we beat anybody that was any good. So I'll let you go. Thank you very much.
All right, Greg. You going to be at the game Saturday? You coming down?
No, I'm coming down for, I think, the Clemson game, and I'm going to Chapel Hill and Raleigh.
All right. Well, hopefully I'll get to see you soon. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next week and see what you thought of the game. Thanks for calling. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550 is the number. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Izubee, we touched on this, but you talk to these recruits on a daily basis and have gotten to know a lot of them very, very well. What would winning this game mean to Miami?
This would be huge for Miami. Just like kind of Greg mentioned, this would be Miami's first real big win since, I would say, Notre Dame in, I believe, 2017. And I feel like that just goes to show for Miami, hey, we can compete with the quote-unquote big dogs, a big SEC team that's done fairly well on the recruiting show and fairly well in the past couple of years, and just show these kids that, hey, I can stay home or I can come to Miami and we can, go against or stand toe-to-toe and beat some of these big guys. You see, teams like Colorado picking up a big win versus TCU and, other schools kind of picking up marquee wins early in the season, week 1 or week 0, whatever it may be. But I feel like Miami needs to show these kids that they can compete with SEC teams or Big Ten teams or any other teams that kind of have that stigma behind them that they're a big program. So like I said, Miami really hasn't had that marquee win, and I feel like that'll be the kind of marquee win early on to set the tone for Miami for the rest of the season and set the tone just to show kids, hey, we're improving. Because last year this is a team that you struggled against mightily. You lost 17-9 on the road. This is your year to come back, show the guys, hey, last year wasn't us. This year's the real us. This is going to be us moving forward. So I feel like this game is, like I keep saying, I feel like this game is the biggest game for the Hurricanes this season.
Yeah, I agree. Look good Saturday, beat Texas A&M. Recruiting should start to elevate like a rocket ship. A lot at stake on Saturday. Let's go out to the 786. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, guys. How we doing tonight?
Who's this?
Good.
Everything. How you guys doing?
Oh, hey, what's up, everything? I didn't recognize the number. How you doing this evening?
Good.
Oh, good, buddy. Good. Well, I just wanted to point out, man, I was a little frustrated in the first half. I know they were loading the box really well against us, but just a little frustrated that we weren't actually dominating the line of scrimmage. I think what the changes they made at halftime, I think that alleviated some things, the big packages they brought in, but we also wore those guys down a lot in the second half, and they don't have quality depth. I thought their offensive line was pretty big, watching them in warm-ups, and they were a little bit slow, but there's at least one or two guys there that'll get a peek and get a look at the next level. But that's a very well-coached team on both sides of the ball. Really didn't make many mistakes to hurt themselves, really. So when you look at what we were able to do, especially that second half, it definitely makes you feel a lot better as to where we're at. But now you've got to play against the big boys, like Coach was saying, and these guys are 2-3 lines deep. They're bigger, they're longer, they're faster, they're quicker. There's a definite discrepancy in terms of athletic ability. I think when you look at the perimeter, that's going to be very difficult to guard that 6'6" guy. So it's going to be one hell of a challenge. But then again, the beauty of college football is you're dealing with 17 to 23-year-olds, and anything can really happen. It's a shame that this game isn't a night game for us. I think that would really have fallen well into our hands. That would have been a night game, but it's a great opportunity. And like Greg mentioned and Izubee was talking about, this is a game that catapults you back into the mainstream of college football. It's the type of win that brings that locker room together. It's the type of win that solidifies the purpose that of what they've been doing the last year and a half. So it's a crucial game. But speaking on the recruiting front and how it potentially impacts things, Izubee, which 24 kid that's out there that's still on the fence or committed elsewhere do you think might end up really being impacted by attending this game and having us come on the winning end?
So one guy that I was kind of really focused in on was Jeremiah Smith, but recently today he said he was no longer attending the matchup. So I kind of just went down that list, and the next guy that came up was L.J. McCray, the defensive lineman from Mayland, Florida. He visited during the summer, and he's really kind of still, combing through the things with his top 5 schools. And I feel like if Miami puts up a big performance against Texas A&M, that'll be a guy that'll kind of, maybe potentially swing the needle for and, kind of show them like, hey, we can compete with these guys. These are, this is a legit team, like we said, like they're taking the steps in the right direction, showing progress from last year. And LJ is a guy that he still has one official visit left, which is to Florida State. And, he was just raving about Florida State. He was at that game last week in Orlando, or I should say Sunday, and was just raving and raving and raving, going on and on about Florida State and how big of an impact seeing them dominate a top 5 team, do for him in his recruitment. So I feel like if Miami can come out and really, really impress a guy like L.J. McCray, 6'6" defensive lineman, a guy that Miami really, really likes, a top 50 guy in the country. I feel like if Miami can come out and show out and do their thing, I feel like that can kind of help move the needle with him for sure.
Gary, when you look at the matchups, and you look at their defensive line against our offensive line, what's the biggest concern you have?
I thought the Miami offensive line last year held up very well against these guys. I mean, it was a tough physical battle, but I thought they held up. And this year, there's no comparison to what Miami's bringing to the game this year. So I'm expecting that matchup to be okay. Like I think Miami can go toe to toe with these guys.
I think if we're able to establish the run early, and force them to really like make some adjustments in terms of maybe starting to shell in the box a little bit more, to sit in the box a little bit more. I think if those things happen, then you're looking at the entire offense working at a higher level. But if it starts with the run, if we're able to run the ball successfully against these guys, then anything can really happen. And last year, you mentioned it, that we ran the ball pretty well, albeit most of those guys on the defensive and offensive line were really young last year. They've all got a lot bigger, a lot stronger. They lost a couple of kids, a kid that went to USC, but that's still a quality defensive line, and they've gotten bigger and stronger. So I think it comes down to how well we're able to execute in the front, and if we're able to control the line of scrimmage, then I think we really have a shot here. But that's the biggest concern I have. And the last thing is, this kid didn't play quarterback against us last week, right? He didn't play against us, correct?
I don't believe he got in the game.
Last year was Max Johnson, the LSU transfer.
Right. So he really didn't play against. And watching New Mexico State, he reminded me a lot of the kid that we watched last night pull off a great upset. Kind of has a similar skill set. And when you look at both of those guys, I know this kid's a little bit more athletic, but not as good a passer, I don't think. And he's become a better passer. He's a kid from Florida State, from up in Palm Beach. Those type of kids give our defenses problems. Now, I know we have a different scheme, but I'm just hoping that whatever scheme we come up with to neutralize this guy is really going to be able to cause them to make bad throws, and that means our pass rush has to be there. And, we have a great system in which quarterbacks are always on their heels and trying to guess, and we show a lot of different things just to confuse them. But, it's going to be a combination of how well we can get to him, contain him, and the other thing is how well our DBs can play. I don't think they're going to try to really enforce, based on what I saw, to go ahead and ram it down our throats. I don't think that's what gets this kid going. Moving this kid around and making all the throws, I think that's what gets them going. That's what gets our offense going.
Yeah, listen, this is going to be a different Texas A&M team than Miami faced last year. You got Bobby Petrino coaching the offense now, and that takes the passing game to a whole nother level, and it's going to be a great challenge for the Miami defense and Lance Guidry to try to stop them. And I think the Miami offense under Shannon Dawson's going to have pressure as well. They're going to have to score points. Like, you're not holding these guys down. You're going to have to score at least in the 30s to win this game, I think.
Definitely, Gary. You got to score at least 35 just to have a chance. Because I think they're going to put up 30 themselves easily. There's one thing that might help us. It's a lot more humid here than it is out there in College Station. So maybe if we have a great day and it's really hot, maybe that second half these guys take a little step back a little bit and we can go ahead and really put our foot down a little bit more and really get things going. But I'm just hoping we're able to really control the line of scrimmage on both sides. If that happens, and again, I know everybody's upset with Leonard Taylor and disappointed, and this is year 3 and all those things. I don't like to make excuses for anybody. But, we did play spring. We did have a shoulder surgery. A little bit harder for a defensive lineman as opposed to a kid like James Williams who had a similar surgery. But, there's some things there that he hasn't gotten a lot better on. And, we need him to go ahead and really get on his game ASAP because the time is here. You want to go ahead and have great film. You want to go ahead and prove that you are number 1 selection potentially. You've got to put it on film. And this is the week. This is Saturday that you can go ahead and make yourself a shitload of money. So hopefully he's on his A game this weekend.
Yeah. All right, everything. Well, thank you as always for being part of the show, and we'll see what happens. And I'm sure you'll be back next Tuesday night to talk about it.
Always a pleasure, guys. Go Canes.
Thank you, man. So, Izubee, you mentioned Jeremiah Smith. And for those of you out there that don't know who Jeremiah Smith is, probably not many of you, but he is the number one recruit from South Florida this year, and he's from Hollywood Chaminade, just an absolutely elite wide receiver, and he is committed to Ohio State. And Miami's trying to hang in there. There is no recruit that they are working harder than Jeremiah Smith, but it seems like they're hitting a little bit of a brick wall. And at some point, there might have to be a little bit of an acceptance that Jeremiah Smith is going to go to Ohio State. I know if you talk to people up at Florida State, they'll tell you that they think they have a chance for Jeremiah Smith. So there's a lot of people that want to get in this game, Izubee. But he tweeted out today, after initially indicating that he was going to Miami, Texas A&M, he tweeted out today that he's back in Ohio this weekend. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I just feel like that's probably Ohio putting that pressure on him to come back and visit for this weekend. But I don't take too much from it, honestly. I feel like there's other opportunities to get him on campus, and I feel like Miami has a good showing in this matchup against Texas A&M. That'll be even more, ammunition from Miami to say, hey, Jeremiah, you missed out on this game. We showed a little bit more. Come out to another big game that we have at home so we can show you, some more that we haven't. And I feel like you hit the nail right on the head. I feel like Miami has kind of hit a brick wall with Jeremiah Smith because there's so much you can do with saying, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. At this time, it's kind of put up or shut up, and you have to show him, hey, all the talking we did through the spring about how, better our offense is and how we're going to develop receivers and all the talking we did during the summer about all this and that. Now it's time to kind of show, hey, all this stuff that we're talking about is happening now. You can see it live. You can see it in person. And, we're not BSing with you. And I feel like, obviously Kobe Young kind of did his thing a little bit during the first game. I know he dealt with a little bit of injuries, but I feel like that was a good step for a guy like Jeremiah Smith. Seeing Miami, show off they have the qualities of a wide receiver one in their program, and they can, make a guy a wide receiver one and kind of develop him into something. So I feel like that isn't the biggest deal that Jeremiah Smith isn't going to be there because there's other big games this season that he could potentially come to. But I just feel like if Miami, like I said, has another great showing, has a good showing offensively and win this game, that's going to kind of give them a little bit more ammunition to kind of fire his way and kind of reel him in back to Miami, because a lot of schools, like you mentioned, Florida State think they have a chance. A lot of schools think they still have a chance with him because he's still flirting with a lot of schools. He's still going out on visits. He's still telling people, hey, I'm going to be visiting schools. It's not completely over yet. So I feel like as long as Jeremiah Smith is kind of giving schools that little inch, they're going to try to take him out and, sell on him and trying to, be that team that flips him from Ohio State. But kind of going back to the first question, I don't feel like this is a major concern not having him at this game this weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. His dad, and he, certainly made it very clear to us over the last 6 months that they are going to be watching Miami. Yeah, he's committed to Ohio State. Yes, he's probably going to go to Ohio State, but they weren't going to ignore Miami. They wanted to see what kind of offense Miami put on the field this year, what the passing game looked like. Now, bad luck for the Canes, but Tyler Van Dyke hurt his finger 10 days before the game. And he clearly was not your typical TVD that we have become used to seeing, particularly two seasons ago. Hopefully this Saturday that finger will be further along. Miami is going to need to crank up the passing game. And I don't know how much Jeremiah Smith's going to see or not see, but I think if Miami starts putting up numbers in the passing game, that will at least give them something to talk to Jeremiah Smith about. So a little bit of a subplot going on in recruiting in South Florida. That's pretty interesting. And Stephen Wagner was out at Chaminade today and saw Jeremiah Smith, and Jeremiah Smith didn't want to talk today. And Stephen got a little bit of a weird vibe out there. And so not sure what's going on at Chaminade. Miami's got to hold on to Josiah Trader. They got to hold on to Zaquan Patterson, two committed players out there at Chaminade. But Stephen left that school today feeling like it was a little goofy, what he came across out there. So we're going to have to continue to monitor these guys at Chaminade and just see how this plays out as the season goes on and we countdown to December signing day. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you'd like to come on the show. Let's go out to the 757. You are live on CaneSport Live.
Izubee, Gary, still don't know who I am. I don't give a damn about all that. Look, man, one thing, I'm old school. I get tired of y'all. Everybody crying about this player, that player. Damn them. They don't want to come. Don't come. Miami going to be great regardless. Everybody going to kiss somebody ass when they come to Miami. Yeah, we need to win games, blah, 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 blah. But everybody get tired of hearing that shit every year. And we got to get this. Man, hell, you come or you don't come. That's where I come from. Blank period. All them stars stuff, this new millennium bull crap, it won't no stars. No, Gary, you old as hell like me. So it won't no stars back then. You played with heart. All them guys played with heart. We played good last week. Ain't nothing to talk negative about. Nothing at all. Go out there, play good, beat Texas A&M. Yeah, I'm getting on my flight. I'll be there. I'll look for you, Izubee. Get that like he don't know who I am. I met him before. I got to meet you, Izubee, because it look like you got a little bit of fire in you. Gary, he getting played out. Take over the damn show. Take over Gary's show. Yeah, I said it. I ain't backing down for my damn thing. 305, ride or die. And stop kissing all these kids' ass. Either you come or you don't. And everybody out there that did not come to the game, Gary, it was a good showing out there. The stadium out there. The stadium was not completely packed, but hell, it was more people than I thought. So this week, 305 people, I'm coming from the 757 and bring y'all monkey ass out there, pack this stadium, because we're going to show them. We lost 17 to 9 or some shit. Should have beat them last year. Now they coming to 305 ride or die. Let's knock them out the box. No negative here. Everything good, except for these damn recruits. All these recruits get on my damn nerves. Till next time, guys. Speed. See y'all at the game. I'll look for you. Peace.
All right, Kane. Great hearing from you as always. Week 2 of Kane, Izubee. I told you from the very beginning. You never met somebody like that cat. So always love.
He comes in, he drops his message, and he gets out. It's awesome.
And he gets out. Yeah, nobody on the message boards will be complaining that he gets too long-winded. I'll tell you that. All right, if you think you can one-up Kane, the number's 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you'd like to come on the show. We're heading now out to the 352. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, Gary, if you're looking for someone to beat Kane, I'm not your guy. I'm not that guy.
Who's this?
This is Sebastian Pipe, man.
Yeah.
How's it going?
What's up, man?
I'm going to start with the positive that I saw. Manny Diaz was coaching this team. We win that game 24-20 in the fourth quarter. That's the truth. We've made some progress. But there's one spot on this team that I still think has a problem. I don't think you're going to agree with me, but I think it's the problem. Tyler Van Hensen. I can't say his full name because I don't want to get sued for his trademark.
You know, he just got his trademark today. His attorney was tweeting it out. They got the paperwork. He now officially owns Tyler Van Dimes.
They should have changed it to Tyler Van Pick. Tyler Van NIT. But he just doesn't look like he's a championship quality quarterback. I'm sorry. The team looked great. The team actually looked like we made progress, shockingly. They actually looked like a functioning football team, something that we've been begging for 20 years. They look like an actual football team. The receivers look pretty good. I don't know why Restrepo didn't have a bigger day. I mean, that kid should just be blowing things up. I think that kid has all the talent in the world, and he's a great kid, and he really has great attitude. The running backs look great. Offensive line look great. You know whose name I did not see or get called out one time during that game? Thank God. And I hate to be mean. Number 11 on the roster, number 100 in your hearts. Probably a great kid, Gary. I'm sure he's nice. You probably know him. But he is not Miami quality at the linebacker spot. You know it, right? Did I lose you? Gary? Is it my show now?
I think so. I think we might have to take over.
Okay,
no,
I'm going to take it over. So, welcome to CaneSport Live with Sebastian's Pipe. Brought to you by Bird Dog Shorts. Get your best pair of Bird Dog shorts that you can get. They're fantastic. Corey Flagg is probably a great guy, don't you think?
Yeah, but I do want to get so you think obviously Corey Flagg didn't see the field much. So what do you think about the combination of Francisco and Wesley Basant at that linebacker spot?
Basant had a great sack, right? He looked fast, but didn't need to be out there at any point in time. That change in the linebacker personnel is what's really going to make us take that next step forward. I mean, when you watch that Clemson-Duke game, Duke looked fast. Can you believe, fast compared to Clemson? You know, we had some guys attacking on Saturday. That was fantastic. We haven't seen linebackers attack like that in a while. Sadly, Corey Flagg needs to take a step back. Probably a great kid, but Tyler did not look like that guy. Williams looked like he had a pretty quick release, don't you think?
Yeah, no, Emory's been impressing everybody since he stepped foot on campus with his mechanics, how sound he is, how composed he looks for being a true freshman. And that kind of last drive that he got, I feel like that kind of opened a lot of people's, eyes to say, okay, we kind of, might have a guy behind Tyler that if things, do go south with him, he can kind of step up and kind of fill that void. But I kind of want to touch back with the linebackers, what you said, the guys look fast. Wesley looked fast. Francisco looked fast. And I think Miami's really going to need that come Saturday because Connor Wigman has some wheels on him. Obviously he's a pass-first type of quarterback, but watching a little bit of New Mexico, obviously, granted, Miami, New Mexico defense are kind of day and night, but he showed he can run. He showed he can make some guys miss. So I feel like containing him is going to be a key. And like you mentioned, Wesley looks fast. Francisco looks fast. I feel like that's going to be a big part of the defensive plan, come Saturday, slowing him down on the ground.
You know who I was proud of? I was proud of Bain. I mean, Bain was in that backfield all day long.
Yeah, he really showed.
He looked really good.
I would say I was really happy with the. I personally thought the defensive line was the deepest unit and kind of showed the most when it comes to they had different looks up there. They're moving guys around. Obviously, some people aren't a fan of Izubee Kelly dropping back in the coverage, but he held his own when he did it. And they had I think a solid 8 to 10 guys. In that rotation. That's all good.
Okay, James Williams is the guy that everybody's expecting to take that giant leap and be up there with Cam, right? This is James Williams' time to really show that he is the man. He's a 5-star guy. I kind of was left wanting a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's unfair for people to have that expectations for what Cam did from his freshman to sophomore year being an All-American, kind of putting that, hey, James, you have to become an All-American now on him type of deal. I feel like as the season progresses, he's going to get more comfortable in his defense. We saw him making plays on special teams with that big hit. He's doing the little things right, and I feel like that's very unfair.
I agree.
I feel like throughout the season, he's just going to, kind of make his way and just, be the James Williams that everyone wants him to be.
Did our center live up to your hype, to your expectations? What did you think of him?
Yeah, no, I feel like the entire offensive line kind of, did what they were supposed to do, control the game. We saw at first, the running game looked really good and it slowed down a bit. In the second half, they just kind of put their foot in the ground. And one thing that I do love is how Miami used Matthew McCoy and Samson Okunlola. When you have tackles like that, they brought them in with the tight end number, so they had 7 offensive line in. And I just love that kind of wrinkle Cristobal and Shannon Dawson put into the offense. But I would say Matt Lee looked very good out there. Xavier Cohen looked good out there. And, the real test is going to be Saturday. Texas A&M, defensive line, one of the most talented star-wise. I believe there's 3 5-stars in that rotation, and the rest are 4-stars. So it's going to be a big test for them come Saturday.
You know, the one thing that you have to be happy about after watching this game is how fluid the coaching seemed to roll, even when you had 2 brand-new coordinators. You didn't have a bunch of the mental mistakes that I think everybody probably expected. We didn't have to burn a timeout because we didn't have the correct play in there. How about that for a change of pace? You remember how many times Manny Diaz burned a timeout because they couldn't get set correctly on defense or the play wasn't put into the offense in time? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I feel like going from what you mentioned with 2 new coordinators, I feel like you couldn't have had a better showing. There wasn't any silly penalties. There wasn't any, things where you just kind of scratched your head and said, okay, this is a first-year coordinator. We can see it. I feel like this is, these 2 coordinators, Lance Gager and Shannon Dawson, have implemented their systems extremely well, and these guys are buying in. And I feel like that's going to be the biggest thing, moving out for the rest of the season. The guys are buying into the system. And throughout the fall and the spring, these guys said these are 2 systems that are very, understandable, that are easy to learn, that are easy to play in. So I feel like just hearing all that in the fall and spring and then actually seeing it in the first game, I feel like if they continue that, it's going to be a good season for Miami with these coordinators.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody listening in right now to think that I'm just hogging the mic here. I have no ability to switch over to a new caller, and Gary has left us. He is MIA. So if you're still listening, I want you to just hold on tight. We're going to try to give you the best content that we possibly can, I promise you, but I just realized I can't switch over to another caller. So this is just me right now, and we're going to do the best job that we can, right?
Yeah, Sebastian, we're holding it down. We're holding it down tonight, man. Are you making your way to the game on Saturday?
I'm probably gonna end up being there. Yes, I am. I wish it was a 7:00 game. 3:30 is gonna be hot, but I think here's the one thing I'm concerned about. I'm so concerned about the fact that the Twitter feed, Miami's Twitter feed, is begging people to buy tickets. Right? They're giving away free tickets to Georgia Tech if you buy one Texas A&M ticket. That doesn't make me feel confident that we're going to have a packed house. They probably see the numbers right now and realize that it ain't that great. So I hope that we can get the people there. I hope we can fill those seats, because this is the type of game that you really have to show out when you have, really good showings from schools that typically aren't that big at football, filling football stadiums like Duke. Duke had a full crowd, You got to expect that we need to get those people out there, and it doesn't feel great when they're hawking tickets at this late in the game.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Especially with a game like this, so I feel like that's super, super important to not only show the players that, hey, the fans support, but also the recruits and the fans. I know Miami kind of has the stigma of, Hurricane fans don't show up to the games. Recruits hear that, recruits see that. So if Miami has a good, outing and they pack Hard Rock, I feel like it's going to be good for multiple things.
And I would apologize for the acoustics right now to everybody listening in. I think Gary's trying to get in. I think his microphone's probably not working, but we're going to hold tight and try to just wait for him until he gets back in here. One of the things that kind of took me aback a little bit was when our athletic director was being interviewed. Did you catch that interview?
With Radakovich?
Yeah, when Radakovich was interviewed, I think it was around halftime, maybe third quarter, and he was asked point blank if a new stadium was coming. Did you catch that?
No, I was not able to see that part up in the booth.
He was asked point blank if a new stadium was coming in, and he shot down those rumors extremely quickly. And, with all respect to John Ruiz, who has been really pushing this, I don't know what the status of John Ruiz is right now. I'm sure once Gary gets back in, he can probably provide some edification for what the current situation is with John. But that was one of John's biggest deals, right? John was going to come in and build a stadium over at Miami Park, or Tropicana Park, Tropicana Park. And Radakovich shot that down on Saturday. I personally think that we do need a stadium. We do need something.
Hey, let me stop you guys for a minute. You can hear me now, right?
Oh, Gary, there you are, man. How did you think this was working out for us?
Sebastian, you did a great job. I have no idea what happened here, but I am going to have to try to get this thing working without all the feedback and everything.
Gary,
so I'm going to let you go.
Effort,
you have more than done your duty.
Okay, Gary, can I ask a question, though, before you let me go?
Yeah, go ahead, real quick.
Okay, two things. First, I do want you to talk about Tyler Van Nichols. And secondly, can I get a free membership? I'm not a member anymore. You kicked me off. Can I get another membership? I held down the fort for you.
You got a 50% off new subscriber special going right now, man. Jump back on board. Behave yourself. Do not get banned again, and you'll be all good.
Surely I earned that in holding down the fort here.
You did a great job. All right, come on. We got to get this thing going. Sorry about that, but what was your question?
I don't want to carry on any longer. Maybe somebody who was listening in could rehash some of the points that I was making. I guess.
No, I heard you.
Okay, then I'll listen. You can go ahead and take me off, but I want to keep listening, and you can bring somebody else in. But I would love for you to dissect some of those issues.
All right, you got it. Thanks for calling in. We'll talk to you next week. All right, sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what the heck happened here. I think my sound mixer blew up or something, but we will try to carry on. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550 is the number. You hit the number 1 on your keypad if you'd like to come on the show. Let's go on now to the 386. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, Gary, how we doing tonight?
We're doing great. Who's this?
This is Will. I wasn't able to catch the show last week. Welcome back. Some of the questions I may ask tonight, probably was talked about last week. I don't know. I wasn't able to catch it, but I'm going to try to be real quick here. I know we lost time when we lost you there, but I want to switch gears for a second. Hello?
Yeah, we're good. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I want to switch gears for a second, and we can play rapid fire here. When it comes to the University of Miami, I am a big fan in everything, all the sports. If they had a bowling team, I'm a fan. So I want to ask you a question about the University of Miami women's basketball team. Does it bother you, Katie Meyer, going into the season, which is 2 months away? Are we asking for trouble that there's only 10 players on this team? And we're supposed to be, making a Final Four run. But we only have 10 players on the team. Is that asking for trouble?
I don't think so, because they have a couple walk-ons, and you don't play more than 10 guys anyway. And they don't want to waste scholarships. They want to make their scholarships count.
Okay. Second question, and we're still on rapid fire. How did you feel about the baseball hire?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I probably would have done something different, but they went in that direction, and now you just got to hope he does a good job. I would have liked to maybe seen a reboot. Bring in some new ideas, new blood. I mean, I don't think you always have to go to a former player. Sometimes it works, like we're doing it with football right now, but Jim Larrañaga was not a former player at Miami when he got the basketball job. You see what he's done. Leonard Hamilton before him was not a former player at Miami. He's done a great job. So I don't think you always have to have somebody who's gone to your school be your coach, but they went in this direction, and now hopefully he'll do a good job.
Okay. I know this question probably was asked last week, but like I say, I wasn't able to catch the show. Back to football, the coordinators hire that Mario Cristobal made during the off season. On a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate those hires?
Pretty good so far, but they haven't had to do anything yet. Let's have this conversation next week. This is the first big test coming here Saturday.
There's another Hurricane fan, a good friend of mine. We got into a heated discussion about Now, I said, which doesn't make me be right, but I said that Charlie Strong would have been a better hire at the defensive coordinator position than Lance Guidry. You agree or disagree? And if you disagree, tell me why.
I totally disagree. Charlie Strong's already made his money. He's later on in his career. I didn't get the sense, just observing last year, that Charlie Strong has that fire in his belly left. He was not functioning very well on the staff last year, and there is no chance that Mario was giving him that job.
Okay. All right, last question. Again, then I'm going to let some other callers get in here. When you talk about the great defensive tackles that have played at Miami, and I'll name a few: Cortez, Kennedy, Russell, Maryland, Warren, Sapp, why do you think that guys Jim Burt and Kevin Fagan don't get mentioned, with those guys?
Oh, man, you could go on and on beyond that. I mean, how about, a guy that doesn't get mentioned that belongs in the Ring of Honor at the stadium? How about Daniel Stubbs, who I believe still has the sack record? I mean, there's been so many guys that have played in this program that you could say that about. I mean, it's just, it is what it is.
Mm. And okay, I said that was my last question, but it's not. But this is the last one. Will the University of Miami ever have an on-campus stadium?
I don't think so. I don't think there's anywhere to put it. I don't think there's anywhere to park people. I don't think there's anywhere to handle the traffic that would be coming into the games. I do not think you will ever see an on-campus stadium by Miami. Outside chance, maybe one day you'll see one at Tropical Park, but I don't think that's high up on the priority list right now. Hard Rock Stadium is one of the nicer stadiums in the country. It's plenty acceptable. Put the right product on the field, people will go there. We saw that in 2017. Those atmospheres for the Notre Dame game and the Virginia Tech game that year were unbelievable. I would put them on par with what we used to have at the Orange Bowl. And you can absolutely have that at Hard Rock. You just got to put a product on the field that inspires the people to come. And do a little bit better job of marketing, too, than they're doing right now.
And back to the basketball question, you say that the women's basketball team did have walk-on that's not currently listed on the roster. Is that what you meant?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the men's team. But I think the women's team. The women's team is in a very similar situation. I mean, they're being very judicious with their scholarships. The women's team, they lost the Cavender twins, which they thought they would keep them for another year, and she's not just taking anybody.
Well, I think I'm gonna get off the phone now, but I feel like 10 player roster. I think you're asking for trouble. So.
Well,
we'll see.
You're not playing that many people most games anyway. All right, well, let me let you run. I got a special guest I want to bring on to the show.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you so much for being part of it. All right, guys, Texas A&M on Saturday. And if you want to know about the Aggies, there's one guy that I consider my go-to guy in College Station. He works for TexAgs. His name is David Sandhop. And he follows that team and knows that team inside and out. And I said, you know what? We got to get David on CaneSport Live tonight. And I've been sitting here tracking him down in between trying to get my damn sound mixer to work. But we have found him. He is walking around College Station as we speak. He is walking his dog, thinking about this monumental clash that his Texas A&M Aggies have against the Hurricanes on Saturday, this time in the Canes house at Hard Rock Stadium. David, welcome to Canes Town here, CaneSport Live. Thank you for taking the time.
Hey, Gary, what's up? Yeah, I'm here at a little nature reserve outside of College Station, and my dog is chasing the deer, and I'm here to talk Canes and Aggies.
Is Jimbo out there hanging out with you, or is he busy game planning?
Oh, I think he's back at the mansion, eating well and preparing, I guess, or watching his coordinators prepare.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mention that because Miami's defensive coordinator, Lance Guidry, was commenting this week about the offense, and I'm talking to him about Petrino. He's like, don't forget Jimbo now. There's a few Jimbo things in that offense that Texas A&M is running. Tell us a little bit about how that relationship is going so far. You bring in a guy that's been a head coach for like well over a decade, who's considered one of the best offensive minds in college football. Jimbo was getting some heat. He had a way to deflect it. He hires this Bobby Petrino guy who doesn't always get along with everybody he works with. How is that marriage of Bobby Petrino and Jimbo working there in College Station, and how will that correlate into Saturday's game?
Well, Bobby's been a very good citizen so far. And, I think when it first, came out, we had the same reaction. Hey, Bobby Petrino and Jimbo, they're going to get along. But, you look at it from Petrino's standpoint, if he doesn't cooperate and doesn't do a good job here, he's not going anywhere else. He's trying to get to a bigger job. So he's been very cooperative. He's had maybe one or two press conferences since fall camp. He's been very much in the background, and he has been very deferential to Jimbo. He has not said anything controversial, and so from that standpoint, I think it's going as well as could be expected.
All right, so Miami came to College Station last year. Thank you once again for your hospitality, by the way. Enjoyed having dinner with you. Enjoyed my entire time in College Station. Phenomenal atmosphere, phenomenal people. And it actually was a pretty good game. And Miami actually played one of their better games of what turned out to be just a horrendous season. And I know Texas A&M was not exactly happy with their season either. But it looks like both of these teams are coming back this year a little bit better. Tell us the mindset right now at Texas A&M.
Well, Gary, I think we've been doing this long enough that it's hard to get excited after the first game. And, the first game is, you're a 35-point favorite. You're supposed to beat your opponent and beat them pretty good. And, Connor Riegman threw 5 touchdown passes, and that's great, but it was against a pretty weak New Mexico team. So I think we're kind of seeing, hey, this is where it all starts, is in Miami. We're going to know if this is we contenders or pretenders. So certainly I think that the offense showed what it needed to show. There's no question that the tempo, it's a higher tempo. There's more pre-snap movement. All the things that people complain about the Jimbo about, it's there. So, the one thing with Saturday's game that leaves a lot of question marks is that New Mexico sold out to just attack the line of scrimmage and stop the run, and they kept their corners on islands. A&M's receivers, and A&M has some good receivers, and it was just one-on-one. And I'll take Evan Stewart and Noah Thomas any day of the week over any New Mexico Lobo cornerback, and they pretty much had their way. So I think it's obviously Miami has more tools in the toolbox to play that kind of defense. So it'll be interesting really to see how it turns out.
What do you think the expectation is come up there? The line opened at 7. We saw it drop to, some places 4.5, 5. Which means, obviously people think that Miami is going to represent itself pretty well this weekend. You look at the ESPN FPI, and they're giving Miami a 53% probability of winning this game. What's the overall mindset on that Texas A&M team going into this game as they get ready to come down south?
Well, first of all, you have to understand Texas A&M's history and big non-conference games. It's horrible. Going back, 25 years. You can count on one hand or one finger the number of big games that they won in non-conference. So there's always some trepidation on A&M's standpoint. I think as far as this team, there's a little more confidence, and I think that's really surrounding the fact A&M has an elite defensive line and a deep defensive line. I think that with all of those the recruiting classes and the recruiting class from 2 years ago that got so much hype, that centered around they just loaded up on 5-star defensive linemen. And so they're going to be great at the point of attack on defense. And I think they have certainly one of their better offensive lines in recent history. So they're going to be good at the point of attack. I think if there's a concern for A&M, it is at cornerback and maybe at linebacker. At cornerback, they have Tyreek Chappelle coming back. He'll be fine. The other spot is actually, you may know more about him than I do. It's the transfer from Boston College, Josh DeBerry. And he had a nice first game. He's really good in run support and in zone coverage. He knows what he's doing. He's a fifth-year guy. But, he didn't have to cover a guy who runs a 4.4 down the field. I think that's the one question mark is, does he have the athleticism to really guard a real fast, good receiver going down the field? So I think that's where – and A&M's kind of – and they're very thin there. If A&M gets any injuries early in the game, that's going to be a point of concern. Otherwise, I thought that everything else was pretty much has been a positive on this team. I think the offense – Evan Stewart and Noah Thomas did show that there are going to be two receivers that opponents have to worry about. Evan Stewart was a 5-star sophomore. He just has incredible speed, quickness, and body control. He's just one of those guys that just plays at a different speed. And Miami better have a plan for him. The other one, Noah Thomas, was really got his first game action this last weekend, but the coach has been talking about him all fall. He's a bigger guy, almost like a Mike Evans. I'm not saying he's as good as Mike Evans, but very similar. Uses his body, big physical, throw the ball up there, and he's going to find a way to bring it down. Did a great job. He caught first game in college as a starter, caught 3 touchdown passes. So, granted, it was New Mexico, though. But, so I think that's where Miami really is going to need to focus is how do you take away those two weapons on offense for A&M?
All right, well, one last question for you. You mentioned you're out there at the nature preserve, whatever, your dog's running around harassing deer. Sounds like a lot of fun. What is the humidity like? Obviously it's been pretty warm down here, David. I know it gets pretty hot in Texas, too. Is weather going to be a factor in this game at all? Has it been humid over there in College Station?
Well, it's interesting you asked that question because somebody on our message board pulled over a Miami fan posting, I don't know if it was your site or another site, asking the same question. Well, it's hot in Texas, but they don't have the humidity we have. They're going to wear down. Maybe y'all don't understand how the landscape is over the east part of Texas. We get the coastal breeze all day long. It's hot. We've had temperatures 107. We hit an all-time record 112 about a week ago, and it's humid. I mean, we get that Gulf breeze. We had a heat index of about 118 last week. So I would say no, heat is not going to be a factor for Texas A&M. They've been playing it, and it's. I'm not going to say it's as humid as it is in Miami, but it's certainly not West Texas dry or anything. We're East Texas.
Have they been practicing indoors more because of the heat?
No. Trust me, as someone who's covered fall practice, they went outside way more than I wanted them to. We were out there, and this old man can't handle it. I would say that they probably spent 75% outside, 25% inside. So,
all right, cool.
I really don't think that's down here too. Factor.
They've been going a little bit inside, but it's been I'd say probably more like 60-40 here, but yeah. But anyway, all right. Well, when I get done with this show, I'm going to go sign up to be the president of the Deer Protection Society, and I'm coming after your butt when I do, because can't be harassing those deer running around College Station like that with your dog. I mean, I don't know about all that, but no. In all seriousness, thank you.
Yeah. Well, hey Gary, since I told you about the deer, we actually ran into an armadillo, and actually those can be pretty nasty down here. My dog had to do a little sidestep in a dance show to get away from that armadillo.
All right. Well, you keep tearing it up over there, and looking forward to the game Saturday. Thank you so much for giving us a little insight into Texas A&M. And if I can ever return the favor, you got the number.
You got it, Gary. Great talking to you again. You take care.
All right, David. Thank you. That's David Sandhoff from TexAgs, and they're the CaneSport version at Texas A&M, and they do a really good job of covering the Aggies. And glad we were able to get David on for a little insight here. But now let's go back to your calls, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad. If you would like to come on the show, we're going to go out to the 305 now. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, Gary. How are you tonight?
Who's this, Adam?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up,
wasn't able to be on the show last week.
Yeah,
I've been good.
You have a good
was on a family. What?
Did you have a good off season?
I had an interesting off season, but yeah.
All right,
don't
good.
get to watch as much football. I had my first daughter this off season, so that's what I've been spending my time with.
Oh, congratulations! That's awesome.
Thank you. Couple questions. One, I wasn't able to watch the game on Friday. So what was your biggest takeaway this year versus last year? I know it's only one game, but with the Shannon Dawson offense and the Lance Guidry defense. And granted, Miami of Ohio is probably okay mid-major. I mean, maybe a good MAC team, but obviously not
it's hard,
a top.
It's hard to judge the offense because Tyler Van Dyke was not 100%. So the passing game had shackles on it. They didn't try to do a ton down the field. The one time they did, Shannon Dawson took the blame. He said he got a little greedy, but it didn't go well. Most of the passing was horizontal, and we did not see the full Shannon Dawson passing game by any stretch of the imagination. So hard to judge that. But what I looked at was a football team that knew what it was supposed to do, that wasn't making mental errors all over the field, which is something we saw a lot last year on both sides of the ball. And they look very professional to me, Adam, and I like that. Like, I thought that was important for the first game, and I thought the coaches did a great job of rotating players. I mean, we're sitting there like, the biggest challenge for us in covering the game was trying to figure out who the hell was in the game at all times. Like, they were rotating guys in and out like crazy. But they, if you look at the refs were pretty balanced, and I thought they did a phenomenal job of managing all of that. I really did.
Perfect. Also, a couple other questions. One, is there any thought to I know you get 4 games, but is there any thought to redshirting Ja'Cory Brown this year? Because then he has the opportunity to play 3 full years after, assuming Tyler Van Dyke goes pro at the end of this year.
100%. Okay, and they're going to try to redshirt both of those quarterbacks. They're going to try to redshirt Emory Williams also. And it's very significant.
But then who would that leave as a backup? That's why I always would like to have one experienced quarterback in the event.
They're both backups, Adam, and if Tyler stays healthy, you don't have to make that decision. Okay, if they have to make that decision, I'm expecting Emory Williams would be the guy in that situation, or they would play both of them. But you don't have to make that decision right now. You could play those 2 guys each in 4 games, okay, and they can still redshirt. So that's the plan, and I think it's a great plan. I think you want to redshirt both of those guys. Yeah. And it's in Ja'Cory's best interest because I think there's still questions whether his long-term future in football is a quarterback. And I think that's going to work itself out here over the next 6 months. Okay. Certainly by the end of spring practice next year, we're going to know where he stands in that regard. And if he needs to transfer, if he needs to change position, he needs time on his side. So it is absolutely the best thing for him in every direction to redshirt this year, and I'm glad that they're doing that. And Emory Williams is, he needs to get that red shirt year too, so that he will have 4 years of eligibility left after the season.
Okay. And last thing, what do you think is the biggest key for Miami? And I think I said this on the board. The biggest key for Miami to get a tough win over the Texas A&M on Saturday.
I've been saying this on our other shows, but I think that they need to treat every down on defense like it's third down. Lance Guidry is a master at third down defense. Bobby Petrino will get off the bus attacking, okay? He doesn't care if it's first down, second down, third down. He'll mix in the run to try to keep you honest. This is a guy that wants to go vertical. He wants to throw the football. He's got a very sophisticated and good passing scheme that he will bring to the stadium on Saturday. And I think it's important. Yes, you always want to get teams in third and long, and lots of times defense coordinators will be somewhat conservative on first and second downs and wait until third down to really unleash their schemes. My feeling is you got to treat every down in this game like third down because of who you're going against, because of the weapons that they have on the outside. And I'm going to be very interested to see what Lance Guidry does here, because this is a big challenge for Miami's defense on Saturday.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking my call, Gary. Have a great rest of the show.
All right, Adam, thanks for being part of it. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. I'm Gary. Izubee's here with me, although I know he's been quiet for a few minutes. We'll get him back involved hopefully soon. But he is still there, I can assure you, unlike me, who disappeared for 5 minutes when my sound mixer blew up. Izubee, you did a great job carrying on in my absence. Let's go to the 419. You are live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, Gary, how you doing?
Who's this?
This is Ohio Kane. I'm from your message board there.
Hey, what's up, my man? How you doing tonight?
Doing really good. There have been some really interesting points. I'd like to say Izubee's made some great points, and I'm really thankful for his addition to the staff. I like the point he made about the big package we brought in with McCoy and Okolona on offense. I really thought offensive, like everything you said, it's pretty much we played a really clean game. Defensively, there weren't as many missed tackles. I didn't see the blown coverages I was seeing last year. I understand it's Miami of Ohio, but you still have to play assignment football. And I watched us play much lesser teams than Miami of Ohio last year, and we were just horrendous all over the field. So I was really encouraged by that. My question to you is, I'm curious, do you think that there's a matchup that is favorable for us against A&M, and is there an area of concern? What one do you find is an area of concern?
Wow. Izubee, you've really studied this pretty hard. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So the matchup I think we're going to, we can try to exploit would be the DBs. I forgot the guy's name from Texas Ag, but he said himself, that's kind of the newest group for Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know about up front how solid they are. Linebackers a little bit shaky, but DBs, are the biggest question mark on that defense. And we saw last year that, not last year, my apologies, last week we saw Kobe Young do his thing. We saw Jacoby George do his thing. We saw Xavier Restrepo kind of do their thing too. So I feel like Miami really, really has to test these new Texas A&M DBs because they did lose a handful of guys in the portal and things like that. Obviously, up front's going to be a challenge, but I feel like testing those DBs and really, this is going to be the game where we see, all right, can Tyler Van Dyke air it out and kind of give it to this SEC defense through the air? And kind of going to the defense, I feel like the tougher test is going to be, slowing down Stewart and Thomas, those two wide receivers that they have. And I've been watching Evan Stewart since he was in high school. He's just a freak athlete, twitchy, fast, and turn a 3-yard slant to a 80-yard, touchdown. And with Thomas on the other end, 6'6", big receiver that can go up and make a play in the red zone and things like that. So I feel like the two biggest battles, the one that, we have the advantage is receivers, and I feel like they're going to have the advantage just like, against us. New defensive backs aren't proven really. I know we struggled a little bit last week with number 10 for Miami, Ohio. And Evan Stewart, I would say, is like that guy times 10. So I feel like that's going to be the two battles that I'm the most kind of concerned about, and I think we can take the most advantage of just the wide receiver and cornerback battle on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I got to agree with what Izubee just said. You know, cornerback was an issue for Miami coming into the season, and there's a reason why they never stopped bringing guys in out of the transfer portal, and that's because they knew they needed to get better there. And this is as progressive of a passing offense as they'll probably see this year, and those guys are going to be tested Saturday, and they're going to have to hold up. So I think I'm 100% with Izubee on this one.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm hoping that we're able to generate some pressure to take some, to alleviate some pressure from our secondary. I totally agree with that. I thought the same thing, that I hope our DBs are able to hold up. I'm going to go against the grain offensively, though. I think our offensive line is much better than it was last year, and we were able to run for 175 last year. And I know their D line's going to be different, but Texas A&M on a whole, they were giving up over 200 a game last year on the ground. I truly think that we should be able to run the football against them, run it well enough to where it'll open up the passing game. I think this year in the red zone we should be much more efficient. I'm looking for Colby Young to break out. I really think that kid's a stud, and I think this is going to be his year to show out. And, with a 225-pound hammer, you can't go wrong. I really like Fletcher in that red zone area. I feel confident going into this game. I'm making the trip down from Ohio, so I feel super confident coming in. But another area I'd like to talk to, since I'm an Ohio guy, is about Jeremiah Smith. Right now, I think Ohio State is having issues, and they realize a team like Florida State is coming on. Miami, I'm sure they've heard, played better, since obviously they're well aware of Miami of Ohio as a program. So I think they're definitely trying to get Smith. They definitely don't want Smith down there in the A&M game, especially with the chance that we may play extremely well. And the kid starts thinking, hey, I've got friends going to play there, and he starts giving Miami a further look, which he's already doing anyways. But the last thing they want him in is, in Miami, with a great game day atmosphere, and the Hurricanes happen to play extremely well, and he also they have to deal with Florida State as well. And I've been saying it for the last couple of years. I truly believe Ryan Day is Ohio State's version of Larry Coker, and people were laughing, but it's starting to show. You look at Ohio State. Defensively is where they're starting to slide. They don't have the dominant defensive linemen you had with Bosa, Chase Young, and those guys. They have guys that are good, but they're nowhere near that level, and the DBs have fallen off tremendously. I mean, Ohio State's DBs used to get put in the league first rounder after first rounder. And now you're seeing guys, they're barely getting drafted at all. The linebacker play isn't as solid. All of a sudden, now they're second fiddle in the conference. You have Michigan, who's the number one team up here. It's no longer Ohio State. And I truly believe if Urban is still at Ohio State, it's still the same old song and dance. Ohio State would be running the Big Ten. I think there's a tremendous drop-off there, and people are starting to see it defensively. Big talk show up here, Braylon Edwards, the Michigan receiver, he pointed out the same exact things, that Ohio State defensively is nowhere near the same football team, and they looked bad last week, and I expect that quarterback to rebound, and they're going to play better football. But Jeremiah Smith, I truly don't think he's a done deal. I think if we have a good year, or even a team like Florida State, if they continue to play hot, somebody else could easily swoop them from Ohio State. I don't necessarily think he's sold on Ohio State.
Izubee, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I feel like after watching them against Indiana, I was not impressed with Ohio State at all. I saw a lot of people on Twitter kind of saying like, oh, if another team was performing like this, I wonder what recruits would be saying about the big and bad Ohio State. And they're saying Hartline as OC is not going to work out too well up there, and how they kind of have a sticky quarterback situation, and there's a bunch of question marks. And I feel like that was a really funny comparison, saying Ryan Days, the Larry Coker up there. I got a chuckle out of hearing that one. But yeah, most of the things are kind of lining up. He inherited a really good program from Urban Meyer. Everything was kind of going Ohio State's way. He's kind of riding that wave still, and you're kind of seeing with his guys he's bringing in. It's all right. Okay, let's see if they can kind of keep this amazing tradition going up. And obviously, you mentioned Michigan's kind of taking that big brother role up there, winning the last two, Ohio State and Michigan matchups by a pretty convincing margin. So, I feel like if the wheels kind of I wouldn't say start falling off for Ohio State, because I don't think they're going to plummet and kind of be, a below average team. But if they're kind of looking a little bit shaky in a Miami or a Florida State, an in-state school for Jeremiah to kind of really shines and shows him, hey, there's other places that can develop receivers rather than Ohio State, it's going to make things very, very interesting come National Signing Day. And I always thought when kids commit to another school so early on, it's so much easier to recruit negatively against one school, not recruit negatively, but recruit against one school rather than recruiting against 40, 50 schools. So I feel like that just put the target on their back much, much larger than it was before, and it's giving other schools easier, things to just focus on. We have to beat out this one school, not 30 other schools. So I do feel like it'll get interesting if things up there don't go as planned and have a lot of Ohio State fans think.
The funny thing when I was watching that Ohio State game, the thing that I noticed that not a lot of people talked about, everybody was talking about the quarterback play, which that could have been first game jitters. It's really hard to say. We'll have to see more of him before I could really, judge the kid. Or the two kids that they have competing for the job up there. They got two guys that are playing, McCord and that Devin Brown. But what really shocked me was the inability to run the football with any consistency. I was shocked that Indiana was able to blow up so many of their run plays. I just didn't see that. Before the game, if you had told me that, I was very surprised. Usually, offensively, Ohio State's line is able, to blow these lesser Big Ten teams off the ball. And it really surprised me, the inability to run the football. Also, I don't think the wheels are going to come off the bus and they're going to be out of the top 25 or anything like that. But what I do see is I no longer see them as a top dog in the Big Ten. Michigan is the best team in the Big Ten right now. They're the most complete football team. Their strengths play right into Ohio State's weaknesses. I think Ohio State's going to have a tough game with they've got Notre Dame. They have to go into South Bend. That could be a difficult ball game. I think Penn State could be difficult. Wisconsin might be interesting now that they got Phil Longo over there. He's their new OC. That could be interesting. And Maryland with the younger two over there always tends to put up points, even though defensively they don't seem to slow. I could see Ohio State dropping 2 to 3 games and not batting either. Yeah, but do I think they're going to fall? No.
I feel like those 2 or 3 games will be all the ammunition Miami needs to kind of recruit against them and things like that. So. I'll never wish for any, negativity towards the team, but for Miami's sake, they could only hope, Ohio State kind of trips up a little bit, goes 9-3 or 10-2, or just doesn't look the same throughout the season.
I agree.
All right, Ohio, you got anything else for us tonight?
I was also curious on your opinion. What do you guys think of Clemson? Is this a freak thing, or do you see a trend down?
It didn't look freaky to me. Listen, they're going to get that. They're going to get better. But they had a lot of issues in that game last night. They got a lot of work to do. But I wouldn't start just penciling in, L's for them as they go forward. They'll be fine.
I think so. I think they'll get better too. I do think that. I do think it kind of hurt them that they don't use the portal, that they don't really have much participation in the portal. I do think it is starting to hurt them somewhat. I don't think
maybe, but they recruit so well. They've got good players.
Yeah, they do. But it just didn't look like the same Clemson that I've seen. And the thing with Clemson in the past is they had wonderful quarterback. I don't know how good Klubnik's going to be, but I don't think. It's unfair to say this, but who is a Trevor Lawrence and who's a Deshaun Watson? They had some studs come through that program. And it's tough to get quarterbacks like that.
No doubt.
Lawrence, I could see Lawrence in 5 years being top 3 in NFL. He's like that kid.
They were just green. They were really green last night. They made some unbelievable mistakes in that game, and gave Duke life at home. So
sure.
That's the way it goes. Give Duke credit. They exploited it. All right, man, we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Give us a call next week.
All right, thanks a lot.
You got it, man. All right, 563-999-3550. 563-999-3550 is the number. You hit the number 1 on your keypad if you'd like to come on the show. Let's go now to the 786. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hello.
Hello?
786, you with us?
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, that's you. What's your name?
Hurricane coming.
Hey, what's up, man? What you got for us?
Hey, I'm like Kane. I'm like, if you don't want to come to the U, don't come. What Mario and them need to do, when they having the paradise camps and all the recruits coming, they just need to line them all up and be like straight up. For the ones that's not really, really interested in UM, man, they go to dough, leave. Stop wasting time.
I hear you guys. Like, I hear what you guys are saying, but there's one problem with all that. Like, you need elite players, you need the best players, and sometimes that means you got to battle your butt off for not, the full cycle, and get them at the end. So, like, it's not when you're recruiting, you can't just like throw up your arms and say, if he doesn't want to come, screw him. Who cares? When you got a player like, say, like a Jeremiah Smith, you got to hang in there and keep fighting because you don't know what's going to happen in, over the next few months. And then in December is when the NIL people are going to come with the big guns. So, you got to, you'll see what happens. I mean, they're not giving up on Jeremiah Smith.
I mean, the thing with a lot of these kids today, man, there's too many prima donnas. Like, that's straight up, man. These kids want everything handed to them. Like, literally, they want everything handed to them. If you think I'm lying, look at the transfer portal. Like, as soon as a kid don't get his way, like, he ready to go. When the kid don't want to compete, he ready to go. But it's like you begging some of these kids to come when sometimes, Gary, like, it's clear as day. Like, it's really clear as day. This kid has no interest in coming. Like, this the thing. I understand people with the 4 and the 5 stars, this, that, and the third, right? But look at the NFL draft this year. Like, look how many 5 stars from all the so-called experts, right? Look at how many 5 stars went to the XFL and not the NFL. Now, reverse that and look at how many so-called 3 stars, 2 stars, lowercase 4 stars that went to the league. So it's like some things just be plain as day. Just like Jaquan Johnson, you have certain players when they was even the young kid from IMG, Antonio Tripp, out the gate, Guess what? The kid never wavered. Like some of these kids, Gary, that man, it just be like it's just plain as day, man. These kids are not coming. But the bottom line, the only way you get the kids to come is to win. Like, Gary, you've been around long enough just like me. The only thing, and then I'm going to say this and then I'm going to go, Gary, just keep me on hold. You've been around, Gary, and a couple other people on this line been around long enough. The only thing, and I hope it's a lot of recruits and definitely South Florida recruits listening, the only thing, and I'm going to say it again, the only thing America hates more than Donald Trump is if UM win. Take me over to that, Gary.
Great analogy. But like we can look back and like say last year's recruiting class, and Izubee, you can help me with this, but I think like Mark Fletcher is one that comes to mind where it didn't look like Miami was getting Mark Fletcher till the very end. They hung in there, they battled, and they ended up winning it. Now you look at Mark Fletcher, he couldn't be happier to be at Miami. Sometimes you just got to fight it out, man. That's recruiting.
Yeah, I would definitely say for some guys that are the elite level game changers, you have to bite the bullet and, hope for the best, when it comes down to it, National Signing Day. But there's also, that was a good point that he mentioned. There's just some guys that want to be Miami Hurricanes. Antonio Tripp's a great example. Ray Joseph, when Miami actually started recruiting him, is a great example. And those type of kids come in the program and kind of build energy and build around, that type of momentum, just coming in and wanted to change the culture. Popo Aguirre, a guy from Georgia, originally from Miami, wanted to be a Hurricane. And then another guy you have to fight to the end for, Ruben Bain. We saw him flirting with Florida State at the end. We saw him flirting with Auburn a little bit. But at the end of the day, he wanted to be a Cane, and Miami stuck it out and showed him. So I feel like with that, there's certain kids that want to be a Cane, but there's certain kids that kind of flirt a little bit and do other things. But at the end of the day, home is where the heart is, and that comes out, when the pen's about to hit the paper. So I feel like with that, there's certain kids where you kind of have to decipher, hey, do you actually want to come here or just mess around? And then there's kids you have to work for that need to see that you really want them for them to stay home. So I think there's two sides to that story, and I feel like Mario Cristobal is doing a good job of deciding, which kids to actively pursue. Because you do see a lot of kids from South Florida. I'll give an example. CJ Capers that Miami kind of just backed off towards the end and, said, hey, this is a kid that shows he doesn't want to be a Cane, so he's not going to be a guy that we really, really pursue. And then you see other guys that they continue to pursue until signing day. So I feel like there's two sides to that story, and I feel like Mario Cristobal, if there's one person to trust, Mario Cristobal would be the guy to decipher who really wants to be a Cane and who he wants to bring to his program.
All right, man, you got anything else for us tonight? You there still? All right, well, thank you so much. Yeah, you have anything else for us tonight?
Let's go Canes. Oh, yeah. One more thing. I love how we played Friday, but I'm going to tell you what scared me, Gary, and it scared the hell out of me, because once we get into competition, it's going to be exposed. And this is my take. Just give me your opinion once I say this. It's like I get sometimes the dropping of the defensive end, but aren't we taking away the player's strength? Because if his strength is rushing the passer, like, why are we dropping them in coverage? And it's not going to be too long, just like with the Miami-Ohio game, with the tight end coming around the corner and Jafar Harvey, he in chase mode. Like, that's not going to work. Like, that ain't going to work.
Well, I mean, that's when you have a defensive end that can drop into coverage. That's a scheme that they use a lot in the NFL. It's a very common scheme now to try to confuse the quarterbacks, make them think, take them off their rhythm. I was watching Nigel Kelly do it last week, and I thought he looked pretty good doing it. Now, obviously he's going to have to do it against some better competition than Miami of Ohio. Jafari Harvey probably didn't look quite as good as Nigel did doing it, but he can do it as well. I don't have a great problem with it. I think it's a change of pace type thing. You probably don't want to do it too often for the reason you said. I kind of feel the same way about that, kind of like I feel like taking your quarterback off the field to bring a wildcat quarterback into the game. If your quarterback, in the case of Miami, for example, Tyler Van Dyke is as good as Miami thinks Tyler Van Dyke is, why would you ever take him off the field?
Leave him on the field.
So but these are different gimmicks that coaches come up with just to try to change it up, give other teams a little bit more to prepare for. So I don't know what's right and what's wrong.
Okay, but my last thing with that, and I'm going to say this, the only difference is between college and the NFL, 6'6", 300, 6'6", 290, in the NFL, move a whole lot faster than they do in college, Gary. That's all I got, baby. They move a whole lot faster in the NFL than in college. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. All right, man. Well, thank you for being part of the show. Give us a call next week.
All right, appreciate it.
You got it. Bye-bye. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Don't delay. If you want to get on tonight, get in the queue, and we will take care of you. Right now, we're going to go down to the 786. You're live on CaneSport Live. 786, you with us? Going once, going twice. All right, you're out. Next time. All right, we've got an open board now, guys. So Izubee and I are going to address some of the issues that were submitted on the message boards at CaneSport.com for tonight's show. If you want to get on the show, now is your time to call. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you do want to come on the show. All All right. So, Izubee, questions that were submitted to us for the show. Motley Kane wants to know how disappointed we are in LT. Is he just lazy, or are we holding him back for some kind of reason? I'll tell you, Izubee, I don't think they're holding him back. I think they want Leonard Taylor to be a killer this year. It's early. It's too early to get disappointed in him. But I do think that they are trying to light a fire under him and send him a message.
Yeah, no, I feel like there's no chance you have a bull like that and you don't let him loose in the China shop. You know, I feel like Miami, you know, he just has to do some growing, you know, whether it be on the field or off the field or anything like that. But I feel like once LT puts it together, then we'll see, you know, his full potential. And obviously that probably sounds cliche, but I feel like once he does actually, you know, put it together, and I feel like there's just going to be a moment where it clicks. And once we see that click, that's when we're going to see this LT that's highly touted that a lot of people have going, you know, top 20 in the NFL draft this year. But I do not feel like Miami's kind of holding him back or reserving anything. And, you know, even the coaches say, you know, I forgot which coach alluded to it, but, you know, when he gets everything going, he's going to be a problem for Miami.
JTH007 asks, do we think that Miami has a chance against Florida State? JTH, here's my answer to that. We are sitting here to September, the 5th, the 6th. The Florida State game's not for 2 months. Florida State's going to be a whole different team in 2 months, and so is Miami. So to sit here and try to figure that out now, I think would be just a waste of time. I mean, if the two teams were playing this Saturday, my answer would be yes, based on what I saw. I mean, I thought Florida State played a great second half last night, or 2 nights ago, rather. But I also saw an LSU team that should have been up by 21 points at halftime. So, you know, we don't really know the true Florida State yet. You know, we'll have to see how they develop as a football team. And we don't know how good Miami is yet. And like I said, that game's not till November. So we'll see. We'll see what they look like in November. All right, Izubee, Motley Kane says, is Tyler Van Dyke's finger issue going to carry over to this Saturday? How much will it impact his ability to execute the passing game? I would say, based on what we saw the other night, he was relatively functional with it. Certainly wasn't 100%. I would think by this Saturday, Izubee, he should be much closer to being 100%.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. There wasn't anything in the game that I saw was glaring where I said, okay, man, Tyler doesn't look like Tyler, where this is going to be something where it's going to be a serious concern for Miami. So I feel like another week kind of rehabbing that hand, making sure it's healthy, I feel like that's not going to be an issue for him come Saturday.
All right, Honey IV wants to know, does Clemson really suck? I'll say no, they don't. I think they had a bad night at the office last night. It was an opening game. I don't know if it was jitters, but you oftentimes do not get a team's best week one. Teams will improve quite a bit off of that. I will say they do not suck this bad. Your thoughts, Izubee?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of flip the script. I think Duke is actually pretty good. Last year they came in with their new, head coach, and they kind of gave it to Miami. And you saw glimpses of, okay, this team might be a team to watch out next year with Riley Leonard running the show on offense. And their defense was just flying around yesterday. We saw Al Blake Jr. in the secondary kind of doing his thing a little bit, and their defensive backs were just, blanketing the Clemson wide receivers in there. And, all 11 halves were flying to the ball, and that defense just kind of looked like a serious defense to me that might, give some teams some troubles in the ACC. And kind of going back to that Duke offense, they look really good, really sound, didn't make too many mistakes like we saw with the Clemson. I think 2 fumbles inside the 5-yard line, missed field goal, blocked field goal, interception. So Clemson just looked really sloppy, and obviously under, a new offensive coordinator coming in, maybe things weren't clicking right away, but I wouldn't say Clemson's bad. I'd rather kind of lean more towards Duke might be better than a lot of people think, and they showed that a little bit yesterday.
All right, as we continue here, we're going to put out a last call for phone calls tonight, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 when you call in to get in the queue. Izubee, Dalkane is asking, does Duke recruit better than Miami? My answer to that is, come on, man. There is no way Duke recruits better than Miami. But what Duke is showing, and they're kind of like a poster boy or whatever term you want to use for this thought, is that if you take reasonable talent and you coach it up like crazy, you can beat what might be on paper better talent by showing up as a better football team. And I don't think Duke had more talent than Miami last year, but it was a better football team. Izubee, am I right?
Yeah, I would say what Duke is showing is kind of, like I said, it's going to sound cliche, but hard work can beat talent. And it just seemed like last year and yesterday versus Clemson, Duke wanted it more than, Miami in that blowout win, and they wanted it more than Clemson last year. And their head coach is, I feel like, obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of that Duke program, but it just seems like the cohesion and the chemistry in those guys, they're just all bought in. They just know, what their job is, what they're expected of, and they go deliver. I saw an interesting stat. It was, comparing how many 4 or 5 stars does Clemson have to Duke, and I believe Clemson had 56 4 to 5 stars, and Duke had 2. So even if they are out recruiting you, they're just outmanning you, they're just outsmarting you, they're just outplaying you. So I feel like obviously you can take a look back at the last 10 to 20 to maybe history. I don't think Duke has a higher recruiting class than Miami in the last 20 years. So they're definitely not out recruiting, but I think they're doing a great job of developing their guys and having their guys buy into what they want to do, and it's showing on the field.
The Truth has a crazy question, so I'm just going to shut up and let you take this one. He wants to know, would Duke beat Colorado?
Wow, that is a very interesting question.
Have fun with that one, Izubee.
Yeah, from what I was not expecting that.
This is why we pay you the big bucks to take these questions.
I would say yes, because the defense. That's what I'm going to say, because we saw Colorado flat out exploit TCU's defense, and obviously the Big 12 known for having defenses that a lot of points, and when it came down to crunch time, Duke was doing their thing on the defensive side of the ball. I think, and we all know the saying, defense was championship. So if I'm putting Duke and Colorado to a head-to-head, I might have to give that to Duke because of the defensive side of the ball, and then be able to slow down that air attack, because we did see, Garrett Riley was a guy that liked to air the ball last year, and they tried to a little bit, and it didn't work, much against Duke. So in that head-to-head, I'd have to give it to Duke as much as I want to give it to my hometown guy, Deion Sanders.
All right, Molly Kane says, what's the likelihood that Elijah Arroyo is back in action on Saturday? If we have a healthy Arroyo, it would help our offense tremendously. Mario Cristobal addressed that Monday, Motley Kane, and they want him back bad for all the reasons that you're stating. It will help the offense tremendously. He's close, and they weren't ready to commit that we'll definitely see him on Saturday, but he is getting closer. And at the start of training camp at the beginning of August, he did not look close to me. He looked a little slow to me. It's hard coming off an ACL. He wasn't quite there. But they say he's getting close now. It's 5 weeks later. And we may see him Saturday, but we can't give you a guarantee on that one. RJW wants to know, will they use Ja'Carri Brown in some goal line situations this Saturday? They will have that. They will have that option. Shannon Dawson obviously will have some of that stuff in the offense. I personally would not take, if you said who are the best players on this team, pro scouts would tell you Leonard Taylor. Fans might say, well, some fans don't like him, but a lot of fans would say Tyler Van Dyke. I don't believe in taking him off the field. I really don't. But JB is a sensational athlete, and, bringing him in as a goal line wildcat type quarterback might pay dividends at times this year. So I don't know if we'll see it Saturday, but I do think we will see it at some point this season. Jay Collette wants to know how these teams are matching up at the line of scrimmage. Izubee, why don't you take that one? O-line and D-lines, how are they matching up?
I feel like this is going to be probably one of the most intriguing and most important kind of position battles head-to-head for this contest, because we know all throughout the offseason Miami made it their priority to revamp that offensive line, bringing in Javion Cohen, Matt Lee, and Francis Mauigoa in the recruiting class. And obviously, with Texas A&M over the last 2 or 3 years, they've brought in multiple 5-stars, Walter Nolan, DeMar Stewart, L.B. Overton, and a lot of different guys. So they've got the talent on that side, and Miami's got kind of, the veteran guys, with Matt Lee being in his 5th year, with Javion Cohen being in his 4th year. So I feel like that's kind of going to be the biggest thing. But I feel like I kind of got lost. What was the original question, Gary? I'm sorry.
The matchups at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm gonna have to break even with the Hurricanes offensive line versus the Texas A&M defensive line. I feel like that's just gonna be a game time thing where we see which line comes out and which line imposes their will. And I feel like defensively I would have to give that advantage to Miami's defensive line over A&M's offensive line. I believe A&M has a true freshman and a couple younger guys on that line. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100%, but just from watching Miami's defensive line and seeing what they can do and seeing how deep they are and just the variety of stunts and looks that they gave, a big Miami, Ohio offensive line, obviously not the same quality player that they're going to see against Texas A&M, but I just feel like Miami's defensive line from the top to bottom is much deeper than A&M's, and I feel like they're going to, have a chance to really, put themselves on that national stage and say, hey, we've got the Hall of Fame coach, and we're going to, put ourselves in consideration for one of the best defensive line units in the country.
All right, JTH again is asking, have we thought about creating another message board for college teams discussion other than the Canes? People were rattled by all this Colorado and Florida State talk this weekend, but I don't understand why. Colorado was the talk of college football Saturday. Why wouldn't people on a message board like CaneSport want to talk about Colorado? And then, of course, Florida State being our chief rival, there's huge interest in talking about Florida State. I mean, my feeling is when you're on a message board, you can pick and choose what threads you read, what threads you participate in. Everybody has different interests. There should be something for everybody on that message board. So I'm pretty happy with our message board. Our message board's been pretty good, other than some of the characters that are in the lounge every day that just can't keep themselves under control. But our war room message board and our Storm Center boards, I think have been pretty good. I am not looking to make any changes to that. I didn't feel threatened that people on Saturday wanted to talk about Colorado. I was watching every second of that Colorado game. That was amazing theater and amazing television to watch, and that's why people were so interested in talking about it. So what I would say is if people don't want to participate in those conversations, just skip those threads. It's very easy. You see the subject of the thread, you just don't read that one. You go to the next one. All right. Anon wants to know if we're surprised at how many tickets are left for this game. Entire sections available, ridiculous amount of lower bowl seats. Listen, this is embarrassing for the program. Let's be honest. I'm not surprised. I'm gonna tell you guys why I'm not surprised. One, they raised the ticket prices. You can't raise ticket prices coming off a 5 and 7 season. That was a huge mistake that they made at Miami. And the other issue that they're going to have to deal with is it's gotten a lot tougher to go to that stadium. Great job, Stephen Ross, with Formula One and the tennis tournament and all that, but you have destroyed your parking lots, okay? And people are having a hard time getting in. They're having a hard time getting in the right lot. They're having a hard time getting to their tailgate parties. And I think that's going to – I know one guy that has 4 tickets who told me he's not coming anymore. That's going to make it tougher to sell tickets for sure. And then another thing that I think is a factor is that this program, from the end of last season in December till the time the training camp started in August, other than about 4 weeks of spring practice, was just off the radar. Like, they have decided to media blackout this program. They're making community appearances. There's a million things. Kids are doing NIL stuff. There's a lot of things that the media could be covering in the off season to keep University of Miami football in the forefront of people's minds. And, you know, they've just gone, for whatever reason, to almost like a media blackout, like, for most of the year. And so I think they have a media problem at Miami that they might want to rethink a little bit. But you put it all together, and they're struggling to sell tickets. And now you got this big game Saturday against Texas A&M. Well, people aren't used to thinking of Texas A&M as a big game. Like, let's be honest, they had a crappy season last year too. So this is a tough sell for Saturday, even though it's the most important of games, in my opinion. I think Miami's got to find a way to win this game. It's critical to the program. But I'm not sure that the general public and the casual sports fan of South Florida is looking at it that way. So you take all this together, I would put more effort into what the fan is treated like when they come to the stadium and the ease of getting in and out. And I would make sure that all my key ticket holders are in the proper parking lots for their needs. You know, the guy that's coming down from Palm Beach County doesn't need to be in Black South, for example. He needs to be in Orange East so that he can pull in off the turnpike and park there, and then he can get back out after the game. Little things like that, I think that they need to put a little attention to detail in here very quickly and make sure that their fans that are coming to the game are happy, so that they're building upon that as opposed to trying to just recapture numbers that they're losing because the experience of going to the games is not so great. So that's the best I can do for you on that one, Anon. I hope I answered your question. Hurricane Bosco is asking, are we worried about the rebuild? And Mario, based on what other teams have been able to do, like Colorado, FSU, and Duke, he's cautiously optimistic, but he doesn't expect Miami to win the game Saturday. Seems like a lot of doom and gloom around the program. I'm not worried about the rebuild. I'm not worried about Mario. Just let him keep working. This football team this year is better, faster. It's stronger. The quality of talent is higher than a year ago. Just let Mario keep working. Let Mario keep recruiting. Izubee, you agree?
Yeah, 100%. The only way I would be concerned is if I saw this program kind of taking steps in the wrong direction, and that's just completely not the case. Like you mentioned, this team looks, better in almost every aspect from last year that, you can chalk up and kind of write on paper and things like that. I feel like, this is kind of the season to take that next step from 5-7. Obviously, the first year is not where anyone expected the team to be in. The roster wasn't, anywhere people expected it to be, and just how underwhelming it was. But I feel like Miami's taking the right steps, to bring this program back on track. And I feel like I've been seeing positive and only, hearing positive things from the program because, when you're around a program as much as, we are, you kind of hear, whispers and things like that. But everyone I've kind of heard from or talked to in the program has said this is, going in the right direction. That's something you always want to hear.
All right, Keith 19 wants to know what's the most important thing Miami needs to do in order to win Saturday. We talked about that a little earlier. Defend the pass, in my opinion. Got to defend the pass. And the cornerbacks must hold up. Your thoughts, Izubee?
Yeah, with me, I feel like it's a 1A and 1B. 1A being defend the pass, and you have to find a way to limit. You're not going to stop Evan Stewart. I've been saying this for a while. I don't think if we do stop him, I'm going to be very, very surprised, but limit his impact on the game. And the Thomas guy on the other side, just kind of make them run the ball, make them prove that they can outman you up front, and just don't let them just have their way in the air. And my 1B would be, Connor Wiggum is a pretty mobile quarterback, so do not let him kill you on the ground. Like we've seen Miami had a bit of a struggle last year, with quarterbacks that can move a little bit, but it's a new defense, we have Skidrew's in the building, new guys on the field, new schemes, all that stuff. But my two things are kind of just don't let those two wide receivers kill you, and don't let Connor Wigman kill you, you know, extending drives on third down with his legs and things like that.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for CaneSport Live tonight. Sorry for that little blip earlier in the show with the sound, but Izubee did a great job carrying on with our caller, Sebastian, and we got through it. Tomorrow night, the Lamar Thomas Show. I encourage everybody to make sure you tune into that. Lamar coached under Bobby Petrino at Louisville. He knows Bobby Petrino inside and out. We are going to get incredible insight from Lamar tomorrow night of what the Hurricanes are going to be facing in that beast of Bobby Petrino's passing offense that he'll be bringing to the table as Texas A&M's offensive coordinator. And, of course, you know, we're looking forward to seeing everybody out at the stadium, bring some friends, get some tickets sold for the use so the crowd can be representative on Saturday, and Miami can have a true home field advantage. All right, for Izubee, I'm Gary. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on CaneSport Live, and we'll see you next time, everybody.